sometimes when you get to know her profile, the profile of our speaker, how much she has done, and what she will still do, then it gives you a level of attention. I mean, your attention becomes different. You pay rapt attention. So please listen and get your pen, your paper ready, and take away every form of distraction that you have around you, and listen profile. And please ensure that you do not disrupt the class by checking that your mic is muted at all times. And this is to ensure that you enjoy the class and you also don't disrupt any other person. Thank you very much. So here we go. Stephanie Sokenis joined Georgia Gwinnett College in 2021, taking on the role of center manager for the newly established Gwinnett County Entrepreneur Center. With her accreditation as a small business consultant and certification as an entrepreneur center manager, Stephanie's primary responsibility at the center is to equip entrepreneurs and small business owners with the necessary tools for its successful start, growth, and ultimate achievement. As an entrepreneur herself, Stephanie brings valuable experience from owning and operating her own small business services company, where she assists entrepreneurs in navigating and managing various aspects of business development, initiation, and expansion. Moreover, Stephanie has dedicated over 15 years to working with chambers of commerce in New York and Georgia, spearheading regional initiatives to provide resources and support for small businesses. Her commitment to helping aspiring entrepreneurs and small business owners extends beyond consultations, as she has served as a certified SCORE mentor and workshop presenter, conducting numerous one-on-one sessions. She has contributed as an instructor for programs such as the Google-sponsored New Start and Teen Entrepreneurship programs, collaborating with the Gwinnett County Public Library. Stephanie's expertise has been recognized with her certification as a virtual facilitator and her attainment of a certificate in small business entrepreneurship and innovation. Having graduated from Leadership Gwinnett and holding a Bachelor of Science in Business Management, Stephanie is pursuing her MBA at the University of North Georgia. Alongside her professional endeavors, Stephanie enjoys a fulfilling personal life with her husband of 28 years, Joe, and their son, Michael, residing in Beaufort. With a digital clap, I would like us to welcome, once again, Stephanie Sokenis, as she shares with us achieving operational excellence and effectiveness in your business. Congratulations to you. I mean, it's worth celebrating that you're here, because you're in for a very, very great time. I can't see your excitement in the chat box. You have to be excited. 15 years, she has committed 15 years of her life to helping people run successful business, not just starting, but also growing and attaining ultimate achievement. That's a big passion and a great goal that is worthy of celebration. So please, let's welcome again, Stephanie Sokenis. Over to you, Ma.
Well, thank you. And it's a reminder that I need to make that shorter. Really, I could just sum it up in, I just have such a passion for helping small businesses, because it's not enough to have a good idea with the business. You just really have to have the fundamentals and foundation in place. And really, you can take a bad idea and make it work if you have the right planning in place for it. That's how important it is. And I love being able to sit with a small business owner and help them put those pieces into place. And this is just one piece of the puzzle, as you know, being in business that you all are. So thank you for having me. This is an amazing group. I love that this is, I can say I've presented globally now, which is wonderful.
Absolutely.
And I'm going to go through some of these things. And, I want to pull out a comment that Joseph made earlier in the chat, that he's here to be able to achieve operational effectiveness in the midst of economic turbulence. And I think that jumped out to me so much, is because the more you have your processes in place, the more you're ready to face those economic turbulences. So think of these things as more proactive than reactive, right? How do you get these things in place so that when something happens, you're not as worried about them happening because you're pretty prepared for it? And that's what this is all about. So So Joseph, that jumped out to me when you typed that and I read that. Then we're going to dive into that a little bit and explain that a little bit more. But let's just jump in and walk through some of this information. So, we hear this term all the time, operational effectiveness. It sounds really fancy. It sounds really important. But really, what is it? What's the definition of it? And how does it apply to you? Is it just for these bigger companies? Or is it for small business as well? And I would argue that it's for everyone, anyone in business. So sometimes growth comes by accident. And whether you have a great product that's developed, or you have a service that fills a need, or you fill a niche, at some point you're going to need this. At some point, the operations of a company, or lack thereof, will affect your bottom line in your business. And that's why operational effectiveness is so important. Operational effectiveness is the capability of a company to perform activities better than its competitors, but also, like we talked about, through turbulences, through unexpected, but really be prepared for those things. So it involves streamlining your processes, reducing your errors, improving productivity, never being complacent, being able to look at everything you do and say, what can I do better? But most importantly, it's not like a one and done plan. You're not going to put this together and put it on a shelf. It's actually achieving operational effectiveness is going to require you to have continuous improvement and be innovative as you look at these processes. Always be evaluating, always be wondering what you can do better, faster, quicker, especially in today's world. Technology is just constantly evolving for us and creating more tools and ways for us to enhance our processes. So we can never put a plan together and put it on a shelf. We always have to be looking at it and reevaluating it. So what are the key benefits of doing all this? What's the outcome? What's the gain? Time is limited, right? What am I going to get from this if I put the time in? Why is this so important to you as a business owner? Well, operational effectiveness can improve productivity, which can reduce costs. It can increase customer satisfaction and can actually enhance the competitiveness you have in the market. So think about you hitting a brick wall almost, right? Or a barrier, how much you are producing in your business, or you're capped out at, we can't produce anymore to make more money. We can't scale this business. When you start looking internally at your operation and how effective your process is, there are ways in there that you can identify to actually help you improve that productivity and cut those costs, which is obviously going to help your bottom line and increase your profit margin on things. So if we're looking at the components of this operational effectiveness, this plan that we're putting together, what do you think some of the key components are that are going to pull some of this out for you? What are the parts of this plan that you need to create this well-oiled machine within your company? And I really mean that if you're a one-person solopreneur up to a 500 employee company, you still need to have a well-oiled machine, because every process that you have in place, if it's not intentional and planned and everything is set, you're wasting time. And actually, the smaller your company gets, the more valuable your time almost becomes, because you're wearing so many hats as a small business owner. Can everyone kind of feel that pain as a small business owner? They wish they had 2 of themselves, or they wish they had 10 more hours in the day. Even by a shaking of the head, let me know. I mean, time is a valuable thing for us as a small business owner. And if the right efficiency and processes are in place, it definitely will create more time for you. You have to find those voids. So for one, process efficiency and optimization, which allows you a better process, which equates to a better output. So how many times as a small business owner do we say, oh, there's got to be a better way? I'm spending so much time on doing this. There's got to be a way to automate this process better. All that time is time that you could be spending somewhere else. So better processes, equate to better output. Next would be allocating the right resources and using them in the best ways. Are we utilizing the resources at our disposal? And I mean, that could be a human resource. It could be an intern that you've got helping you out. Are you utilizing their skill sets or the way you could be using them? Is time being spent properly on things? How are you utilizing every resource that's at your disposal? And can you take a look at this again and see if maybe you can change that up to really be more beneficial to you? Then, not only managing and maintaining quality, but never getting complacent. And instead, always looking for ways for continuous improvement. Always strive to be better. Do you put a product or a service out there and have an attitude of, you know what, if it's not broken, I'm not going to try to fix it? No news is good news. Or are you always trying to evolve your company, getting feedback, getting information, to always be trying to better what you're doing? Are you aware of what competitors are coming up behind you that might be doing things a little bit better than you because you got complacent in your business? There's different things you can be doing that don't cost a dime like that can improve your business and improve everything you do. And if you improve your business, you improve your bottom line. So if someone comes into us and says, boy, I'm just not making enough money, I have to find a way to make more money in my business. This is one of the first things we'll say to them. Well, let's look at your process. There's money hidden in there. You just need to know where to look for it. What can you do? There's two ways to make more money in your business. Decrease your costs or increase your revenue. And this is all the tricks in here. Finally, always being proactive. Be proactive enough to identify, manage, and mitigate risks. Okay, we talked a little bit about that economic turbulence. Okay, we all got hit with the pandemic. Doesn't matter where you are. Blindsided by that. What risks do you think your industry has that you should be prepared for? Right, we've got real estate folks in here. What are your risks? What can you prepare for? Think about your industry. We'll talk about that in a minute. Okay, so you need to know all this. But what are some of the main strategies for actually achieving all of this operational effectiveness? We're going to walk through some strategies to help you get started and start to put a plan in place for yourself, regardless of what industry you're in. So first and foremost, you're going to want to begin with establishing clear goals and objectives. Then you're going to find ways to streamline and optimize your processes. And again, I'm going to say it again, no matter what size business you have processes. If you're a one-person show making candles and selling them on the internet, you still have processes. We're going to go over discovering ways to allocate and utilize resources to best benefit you. Are your vendors the right vendors for you? Are they getting things to you in a timely fashion? What's your distribution model? Who are you using for those things? Using your company culture to feed that continuous improvement. How are you utilizing employees? We're going to jump into that a little bit as well. Implementing best practices and processes to always ensure quality control in what you put out. Don't ever take for granted that people are buying it, so it must still be okay. And now that we've identified the risks, find ways to mitigate those operational risks, right? It's one thing to know what might happen, but what can you do to be proactive about getting in front of it and being ready for it when it does happen? So let's begin with this. There's an old quote by Lewis Carroll, who, if you're not familiar with the story Alice in Wonderland, he is the author of Alice in Wonderland. And his quote is, if you don't know where you are going, any road will get you there. That's the truth. So before you set your path, you really need to set your goals. What do you want to achieve? What do you want to accomplish? before you put all your strategy and tactics in place for this overhaul of your operation, start with the end in mind. What is your goal? Do you want to have a 90% customer satisfaction rate? Do you want to make more money? Do you want to have a better staff? Try to figure out what your goals are. And again, never make it a document that goes on a shelf. It's always evolving. It should always be changing. So one of the main things you'll want to do is optimizing your business practices. And why is that? Because by optimizing your business processes, it leads to increased efficiency, productivity, and profitability. Very important things, right? We don't realize those are really the main things that we want, and they all work together. If you have efficiency, you're going to have good productivity. If you have both of those, you're likely going to see some profitability. Usually one can't work without the other. But in order to do this, you really need to identify what your bottlenecks are. What's keeping you from achieving that? Is it a vendor? Is it a part that you need for the whole product? Is that taking longer? Is it a cost? What's holding this process up for you? What are your areas for improvement? What can you do in order to streamline the workflows for your success for your company? There's always something you can do. And I'm hoping kind of your wheels are turning as you're listening to some of this and thinking, yeah, I know, I've been working with this vendor and everything gets backlogged because I can't get that piece. Or maybe your email system isn't working, so communicating with clients isn't working well. Having problems sending proposals to some clients or prospects. It could be anything. But think about what's always giving you that headache. What's always bottlenecking that process for you? Implement lean principles and techniques. And what that means is it enables you to discover how you can create more value for your customers by using fewer resources, right? We can all go out and get the better piece to make the product better and create more value. But how can you create something that provides more value, whether it be a service or a product, by using fewer resources to do it? There's a way. And sometimes it's a Google away. Do your homework, do some research, see what else is out there. So let's talk about enhancing your resource allocation and utilization, because that's usually always the toughest part of trying to build efficiency. But you're going to want to prioritize and align your resources with your strategic objectives. So really, what does that mean? It means just be sure to focus on the resources that help you meet your objectives and your stated goals. The ones that we talked about earlier, the ones that you've set for yourself. It's very easy to get distracted. It's very easy to start piling on different resources that you don't need. That's why it's so important to put together your goals and objectives early, so that you always make sure anything you bring into your company as a resource makes sense for where you want to end up. You won't get distracted by a good sales pitch for something. Anything you hold in your hand is something that you might be bringing into your company. You should always be asking yourself, is this going to help me reach my goals? Is this working with the strategy that I've set forth for my company? Don't go out and spend $500 on SEO if it's not going to make sense for you to hit your goal. Be more specific about what you're doing. To be sure you're doing that, make sure you implement a way to measure the effectiveness of the resources you're using. So what does that mean? If you try to implement something, if you put something in place, don't just set it and walk away. Go back and track it and measure it. What's happening? Is it doing what it was intended to do? Did you make sure that you set something for it to do? What is the reason it was implemented in your company? Is it doing its job? It's incredibly important for you not to just try things and not come back and make sure they're actually working. What's going to happen then is you'll just keep spending money and you'll keep spinning in a wheel. The needle will not move forward. The idea is you put something in place, you give it a chance to work, you see if it's working. If it's not, you try something else. If it is, find a way to do it more, if it makes sense to meet your goals.
More than my husband. Last time I go smash the six so down.
Okay, didn't want to move again. All right,
Sorry,
so talking about the key metrics to measure your operational effectiveness. What key measures, what can you do to do that? Tracking metrics such as your cycle time, lead time, your throughput, that's the amount of materials or items that's passing through a system or a process. Think about the steps involved. Your defect rate, if you have a product that you're putting out, and if it's a service, there's still a defect rate, right? Who's not responding, who's not coming back. And again, this can be you selling a home to selling a candle. It doesn't matter. A lot of businesses will not look at retention, repeat customers. That's such valuable data. Everyone's so worried about going out and trying to sell to new customers, and they don't really look at their existing customer base for data. It's market intelligence for you, what your existing customers are doing. Use that. But look at the process. Optimize your operations and achieve business growth and success by doing that. These metrics provide valuable data that should drive your process decision-making. So before you say yes to implementing something or implementing something again, you should be able to look back at it and say, did it work last time? Can we make a change to it to maybe see if it'll work a different way? But so many companies put things in place, and especially if they see sales come from it, they never look at it and say, how can we be doing this better? What are we getting? Who's coming? Who's responding to this? You have to look at your overall process and see how it's working and keep adjusting it. And you're only going to do that by tracking those metrics. It's very similar to when someone goes out and spends a lot of money on search engine optimization, and they trust the people they talk to, and they give them $1,000 and say, go ahead, do SEO for me. And then 2 months later, you pick the phone up and you call them and you say, you know what, I'm not getting any hits. And their typical response to you is, well, you have to give it time. Got to give it 6 to 12 months. You're not going to see anything until then. But what's the tracking? How do you know? How do you measure it to see if that money is working for you? It's very similar to that. So anything you put in place in your company, always be looking at it and saying, is it working? The next thing you have to look at is fostering a culture of continuous improvement. Nurturing a culture of continuous improvement that encourages innovation and success. So what does that mean? Why is it important? Employee engagement. Engagement, seeking out opinions, suggestions. Employees are more productive and loyal and committed to a company that engages them. They're not a number. They don't come in, sit at a desk, go home. You can foster engagement through communication, recognition, feedback, but make sure you're working with your employees. Bear with me. Also, one thing to keep in mind is These are the ones within your company. This is your human resources. That's why they name it that. These are resources who are human. These are the ones within your company that are down in the mud with their ear to the ground, who many times have the best process improvement ideas because they're the ones actually doing the work. They know the better ways. They're the ones standing there saying, you know, if we only did it this way, we could save more time. If we did it this way, we'd be much more efficient. If we did it this way, it would cost a lot less money. It's so important to engage your employees, no matter what level they are in the organization. So I'm not sure if you even get this show in West Africa, for those of you joining us from there today, but there's a show called Undercover Boss on TV, where the CEO of a company or somebody in the higher up office making all the decisions that affect the whole company goes undercover and works with people that are actually out doing the work. And the lessons they learn about the company are so important and life-changing because they had no idea what was actually happening on the ground. They're making decisions from their office, not realizing that there's a better way to do things. And the people who know that are the people who are actually out there doing the work. It is incredibly important to have your employees engaged in your business. Talk to them. Run contests for suggestions. I believe, and this is worth checking, Google makes it 20% of the work time for their employees. 80% is working on things that they currently have in place, and 20% they have to be out thinking of new ideas for the company. So there's a reason they do that. Implement robust quality management practices. What does that mean? Establish quality standards and metrics. Not good enough is not good enough. You have to always have some form of quality control. And the problem is, as a small business, when we start scaling our business, the less and less control we have. The less and less we're able to hold on to that quality control because we're not doing it ourselves anymore. One of the biggest problems with small businesses is delegating those tasks. Nobody ever wants to let go because they're afraid that their employees are not going to do it as well as them. And chances are you're probably right. However, if you have something in place of what that quality control is, that's how you train your employees. That becomes your process. So you are really helping yourself along to make sure that that quality is always controlled as much as possible, because you have stated it clearly what you're looking for. It's the next best thing to you doing it. Incredibly important when you put these efficiency programs in place. Make sure you conduct regular audits and inspections. Get on the phone with that client. Do a survey. Do something. Don't just assume that no news is good news. And if nobody's calling you to complain, everything must be fine. Get on the phone and find out what's happening. It'll go a long way, particularly nowadays. And make sure you implement corrective and preventive actions. What if something happens? What should you do? What happens if a client calls and says, I don't like the quality of this? What can you do next? Don't be so reactive. Have these things in place. And let's go back to Joseph's original comment, right? How do I do this during the midst of economic turbulence? Be prepared. Get yourself ready. Try to expect as much as you can. So work on these establishing quality standards. Establishing quality standards is defining clear quality standards and specifications for products or services. And that's to ensure consistency and meet customer requirements. So when folks go out there and work for Disney, there's specific processes in place because they know exactly what they want, exactly what quality that their customers expect. It's not a do the best job you can. It is very specific as to what they want from their employees. You can do that. Doesn't matter how small a business you are. Conduct